What's going on, everybody? I am here to do a review for the movie Cocaine Bear. I have to be honest with y'all. When I first heard about this movie last year and heard that it was actually based on a true story, I said, wait a minute, I got to do my research on this to see how true this is. And sure enough, it is a true story. When I saw the preview for it, I said, this movie looks so silly but intriguing at the same time that it actually might be good. And my hunch was actually correct. This movie was pretty damn good. And goddamn hilarious. Like, this movie was funny as hell. But before I actually get into like what made this movie hilarious, let me give you a little bit of synopsis of what the movie is about. So the movie Cocaine Bear is loosely based on an actual real story where a plane carrying a bunch of cocaine, this happened back in the 80s, and you can actually go and look this up, was carrying a bunch of cocaine, and someone on the plane just dumped a bunch of it, just scattered it anywhere, and some of it landed into a forest. And then all of a sudden, this bear, I believe it was a black bear, consumed tons of the cocaine, overdosed, and died pretty much instantly. I believe that the bear itself has been put on display in some kind of a museum or some kind of center. They actually stuffed the bear to preserve it, and it's on display somewhere. I think in Kentucky. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's in Kentucky where the bear is on a display. Of course, in the movie, or for the movie purpose and entertainment purposes, that does not happen as far as the bear just dying instantly after consuming cocaine. If you saw the trailer for it, it does the complete opposite. It consumes cocaine and then it just goes on a complete and utter rampage. And the only thing that really calms it down is whenever it gets high on cocaine. Like, this movie right here was actually pretty damn funny. The concept of it was hilarious. The characters in it was funny. Some were funnier than others. Pretty much all the jokes landed perfectly for what it was. It's one of those campy type of films. I was actually talking to Town Biz, and he was pretty much saying that this is one of those movies where you can't really go wrong with it because it's not one of those films that you have to overanalyze like some of the other movies that I've talked about in the past. It's one of those movies you just go out there, you watch it, you have a good time watching it. And it's crazy because even though this is an R-rated movie, because of the content that's in it, even kids, I think, will actually find a way to enjoy this, because the theater I was in, it was a couple of kids in there and they were just laughing just as hard as the adults that were watching the movie. So basically, once all this cocaine just gets dumped into the forest, the bear just finds it because, bear is curious. It's never seen something like that before. It consumes it, and then that's when all hell just breaks loose. And the mission basically is that the underlying mission is that cocaine that was being dumped is actually for or pertaining to a couple of the characters in the movie, where they are drug dealers or drug smugglers, and they're trying to get the cocaine back. But that obstacle is that damn bear. So it's kind of hard for them to have to go. They have to find a way to get around that bear to get that cocaine in order to get it to the people so they can get paid and not have to suffer any kinds of consequences. I can't tell you like exactly every single hilarious part in this movie. Just know that this movie is funny from pretty much beginning all the way throughout to the end. Now, this movie was directed by Elizabeth Banks. Elizabeth Banks, she's an actress slash director, and I'm gonna be honest with you, when I first heard that she was the director of this movie, I wasn't too on board with it, because I remember when she did that whack trash Charlie's Angels remake a couple years ago, and it was a flop. And then she tried to blame the movie being a flop on men not supporting strong female lead characters in action roles. And I actually did a video about her making those comments and the feminist tone that she used when she was talking about that. And it was like, no, that's not the reason the movie flopped. It's just that no one was going to support it. We already had a Charlie's Angels movie back in the early 2000s. We had two of them. Why were you making a remake of a remake? Because that was a show that was remade into a movie that now you made a movie into another movie. So it just didn't make sense, and nor did it work. And it had nothing to do with men not supporting it, because women didn't support it either. So when I heard that, I was like, I don't know, because she's the director of it, but I saw the trailer for it and I was like, you know what, I'm willing to give it a shot. And I'm gonna say this. This is the lane, if this is the direction that Elizabeth Banks wants to go in, I say stay in this lane right here, because this actually was executed pretty good. It is a couple critiques that I do have with the film overall. But stay in this lane right here, because maybe this is the direction that she needs to stay in, not doing what she did with that whack garbage Charlie's Angels that should not be even mentioned in anybody's film repertoire. Also, I have to give a shout out. This is to Ray Liotta. You know, he was a famous actor. I believe this is, if not his last film, one of his last films that he made before he passed. You know, he passed away a few months back, and he was in this movie. He didn't really have that much of a big part in the movie. He was like at the beginning of the movie, and then he came in more towards like the third act of the film, which actually gets me into one of my issues that I had with the movie. The first one being is I can tell that they were working with a limited budget with the film, because the bear looked almost a little too CGI. It didn't look too real to me. I'm kind of getting my critiques out before I get into what I liked about it, because I don't have that many critiques. But the bear didn't look too realistic to me. It, like, the CGI was kind of there. Like, whatever you saw in the trailer for that bear is exactly what you got in the movie. So it's almost like if you thought that it was just like a test version or a test rough draft of the bear in the trailer, that's exactly what you got in the movie itself. But that was one critique that I had. The other one I had is in the third act of the film. It was a complete and utter tone shift that I did not see coming. And honestly, I didn't really agree with, because of the tone that the movie has set up in the first hour or so. And then that complete and turnaround that it did in the third act, like probably within the last 30 minutes of the film, was like, where did this come from? Why did the shift tone like that? I guess it's because they wanted to let people know that yes, while this is a movie that's in the comedy side, there still is horror elements there. But if it was me, I would have said, like, you know, sprinkle a little bit of both throughout the whole movie. That way, when that shift happened, or maybe that shift did not have to happen, and then it would have made sense. But that's just me. But those really were my only two critiques of the movie. As far as like the blood in this movie, I don't know how many buckets of fake blood they had to use for this movie, but they had to use quite a bit, because there was a lot of blood in this movie. There was a lot of dismemberment, you know, losing of limbs. There was insides coming out on the outside. There were people's heads being blown off. It's a lot. Like I told you, this movie, like I'm saying, this movie is comedy horror, and it has a lot of graphic stuff in it. I'm telling you right now. So if you are one of the people that just that doesn't have a strong enough stomach to watch something like this, you probably should not watch it. I'm just being completely honest with you. It's a lot. And I do mean a lot going on throughout this entire movie. And the thing is, this movie went by so fast that it didn't even feel like the time was going by, because this movie is like a little under 2 hours long, but it felt like it was less than that, because so much was happening that you didn't even think about the runtime of this film. And I'm not even upset at that. You know, you don't have to drag anything along. So I think this movie had the perfect runtime as far as tone, pacing, direction, and all of that, because a lot of movies will drag stuff out, and it's like, why did you even have to put that in there? You could have just simply left that part out. But I'm glad that they didn't do that, and they kept it at the time that in the pacing that they did, as it pertains to how the movie was progressing along and with the story itself. Some of the funniest people in this movie was hands down the park ranger. The two kids were funny. Who else? It was an ambulance scene. That part was funny. And some other things. I don't want to give it like any spoilers away, but I'm just throwing those things out there, and those people out there, that if you do go and see this movie, I'm telling you, it's guaranteed you're going to laugh. This movie is going to make you at least chuckle. It's no way you're going to just sit in that movie theater and be just like, oh my God, what is this? He just sat up there and talked about this for the last few minutes and said how funny it was, and I didn't crack one smile. Trust and believe, you're going to laugh, because like I said earlier, the jokes actually hit and they land almost perfectly. But that goes back again to the writing and the actors who executed these roles that they were casted for pretty much in a good way. But if I had to give a score for how this movie was to me, I would give it an 8 out of 10. Like I said, I had to take a couple of points off because one of how the bear looked to me and because of that complete tone shift in the third act of the film. But other than that, if you're looking for comedy, you're going to love it. If you're going to look for a little bit of horror elements in there, you're going to love it. If you're looking for that gory stuff, you're definitely going to get it in this movie as well. So all in all, Cocaine Bear was a pretty damn good movie. And one thing that also attracted me to the movie when I first saw the trailer was that I said, you know what? Maybe we needed a movie like this. We've been saturated with so many superhero movies over the last couple of years, and a lot of drama movies over the last couple of years, a lot of non-superhero action films over the years. Maybe we just needed something like this to kind of like tone stuff down a little bit while having some adrenaline attached to it as well. And I think this movie did it perfectly, in my honest opinion. But y'all let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know if this is a movie that you would go and check out based on my review. And I will talk to you in the next one.